Hello children, we will study about parts of a shadow and properties of shadow. We previously studied that light travels in a straight line and light is obstructed by certain materials. So it cannot go around such objects, and this is why we see shadow. So this is the shadow. And shadow is always against the opposite side of light source. As you can see, shadow is always against the opposite side of light source. So it is caused by the opaque objects that stop light from propagating. Opaque objects means materials that do not allow light to enter through them or pass through them or from propagating. These objects are known as opaque objects, and it is mainly caused by opaque objects that stop light from spreading. We will now study about parts of shadow. When an opaque object is placed in the path of light from a point source, a uniform dark shadow will appear on the screen. So this shadow is known as umbra. So when an opaque object is placed in the path of light from a point source, a uniform dark shadow will appear on the screen. This shadow is known as umbra. When an opaque object is placed in the path of light coming from a broad source of light, a small umbra will appear on the screen, and an illuminated shadow appears around the umbra. This illuminated shadow is known as penumbra. I repeat again, when an opaque object is placed in the path of light coming from a broad source of light, a small umbra will appear on the screen and an illuminated shadow area appears around the umbra. So this illuminated shadow area is known as penumbra. So the umbra is the darkest part of a shadow and the penumbra is the lighter shade of shadow. So in the terms of umbra region, the light rays are completely prevented by the opaque object. I repeat again, the umbra is the darkest part of a shadow and the penumbra is the lighter shade of the shadow. We will now study about properties of shadow. All objects do not form shadows. Only opaque objects form shadows. Shadows will be formed in the opposite side of light source. The characteristics of an object cannot be determined by its shadow. That means if you see the shadow, you cannot tell exactly what object it is. It might be anything. And shadows will always be dark, whatever may be the color of light rays. For example, light source, opaque objects, and shadow all are in a straight line. The size of the shadow depends upon the distance between the light source and the object and the distance between the objects and the screen. I repeat again, the size of the shadow depends on the distance between the light source and the object and the distance between the object and the screen. So shadows will be formed on the opposite side of light source, as you can see here. I repeat again, shadows will be formed in the opposite side of light source. And shadows will be always darker, whatever the color of light rays may be. You can see how dark the shadows are. And the shadow, light source and the opaque object all are in a straight line. Okay, the opaque object The light source, the opaque object and shadow all are in a straight line, as you can see in the image. So now we are going to see about two activities which you can perform at home with the parental assistance. What do you need to do is, you need to place a lighted bulb in front of a rectangular cardboard with a hole at the center. So you have to put a hole at the center and you have to place a lighted bulb in front of a rectangular cardboard. Okay, so what we observe is, we observe a shadow with a spotlight appears in the screen. We observe a shadow with a spotlight that appear on the screen. We observe the shadow. Okay, what we learn is, light rays are passing only through the hole. Light rays are passing only through the hole and are not allowed by the remaining part of the cardboard. What we learn is, light rays only pass through the hole and are not allowed by the remaining part of the cardboard. Okay. And the second activity is, we place a pencil in the path of light ray coming from a lighted bulb. We place a pencil in the path of light ray coming from a bulb. So what we observe is, we observe a shadow of the pencil on the screen. We observe a shadow of the pencil on the screen. So this, what we learn from this activity is, the size of the shadow is proportional to the size of opaque objects. What we learn is, the size of the shadow is proportional to the size of the opaque objects. Now we will see an activity. The requirements are a white screen, a cylindrical opaque object and 3 bulbs or candles in different sizes. So use all the 3 different size lamps or candles and examine the umbra and the penumbra formed. So these are the candles, and you have to keep the distance between the lamp and the cylinder and the screen. So as the size of the lamp grows smaller, the umbra region begins to enlarge. So the darker shade is the umbra. The lighter shade is the penumbra. I repeat again, the darker shade is the umbra and the lighter shade is the penumbra. Okay, so as the size of the lamp grows smaller, the umbra region begins to enlarge. So what if the size of a lamp is a point? Then there will be no penumbra. There will only be an umbra shadow. Okay, so I repeat again, use the 3 different size candles as shown in the picture or lamps and examine the umbra and the penumbra formed. Okay, and finally, if the size of the lamp is or a candle is a point, then there will be no penumbra. There would only be an umbra shadow. Can you tell the reason for that? So perform this experiment at your home with parental assistance and write down the result and you will know the reason. Thank you, students.